All right, in this video, we're going to do example number 7 in section 1.8, and then I have a few extra examples that I want to show you that I think are good to know. So looking at example number 7, we're following our order of operations because we've got a lot of stuff going on here, and we're going to get a little more complicated. So we've got to be very careful to stay organized and go step by step. If you notice on example number 7a, I see not only round parentheses, but I also see those squared brackets, right? So when I see multiple parentheses, I want to go from the inside and work my way out. So I notice that the very inside parentheses here, I want to do first. I notice that I have 3 minus 5, or 3 plus -5, which is -2, right? So making sure that I'm very organized, I'm going to carry everything down just the way it is. I have 8 divided by 4 plus 3. I have my brackets. I have 9 plus 2, and inside my parentheses turned into a -2. I have cubed, and then I have my bigger parentheses. Now, I still see 2 sets of parentheses, but remember this first set of parentheses has already been simplified for us. There's just one number inside there. So really, this set of parentheses is just representing now that I have a multiplication problem and a -2 inside. So the next parentheses I see are these squared off parentheses, this bracket. And so I want to make sure I do anything inside here next. But if you notice inside here, we have addition, we have multiplication, and we have exponents. So if you remember back from order of operations, out of those 3, we're going to do our exponents first. Now, it is kind of important to keep those parentheses because -2 to the third power really means that I have -2 times -2 times -2. So be careful not to take away those parentheses because that -2 really needs to be inside those parentheses. So -2 cubed happens to be -8. Carrying down everything really carefully, I still have my 9 plus 2 times -8. You can use parentheses still if you'd like to, but remember this is just representing that I'm multiplying the 2 times the -8. All right, inside these brackets now I have addition and multiplication. So we know that we're going to do multiplication first. So 2 times -8 is -16. So now inside my parentheses or my brackets, I have 9 plus a -16. Let's simplify one more time inside these brackets and finish off this addition problem. 9 plus a -16 is really -7. Carrying down everything very carefully, I have 8 divided by 4 plus 3, and then next to my brackets, you can either make them round or square, but next to my brackets, I have the 3 and then a -7 inside. So now really what I have is I have division here, I have addition here, and I really have multiplication right here. So if I'm following the order of operations, I want to make sure that I do multiplication and division, but as soon as I see it from left to right. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this division, 8 divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and I'm going to bring down everything carefully. I have 8 divided by 4 plus 3 times -7. If I think about that being separated, I can also do the multiplication as well because they're separated by that plus sign. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 3 times -7 is -21. Now I have 2 plus a -21. 2 plus a -21 is really a -19. But making sure that you go step by step and you're really careful with your organization. That was kind of a hard one. Make sure you practice one like those by yourself. All right, let's look at B. B gives us now a division, a fraction bar, right? And so that is a type of ordering symbol. And so remember, we're going to do parentheses, brackets, absolute values, or even division bars first. What that means is we want to make sure that we simplify everything in the numerator, then simplify everything in the denominator before we put them together. All right, so looking at our numerator, I notice that we have some parentheses here, 9 minus 7. So I'm going to do that first. I have 12 times 2 then, plus 4 times 5. I notice that I have multiplication here and multiplication here that's only separated by a plus sign. So since they're separated, I can do those multiplications separately. And I can say that 12 times 2 is 24, and 4 times 5 is 20. 24 plus 20 is 44. Remember that number for the numerator. Now on the denominator, I don't see any parentheses, but I do see exponents. I see 2 to the 4th power and 3 to the 2nd power. They're separated by a plus sign, so I should be able to do those separately and not affect the problem. 2 to the 4th power means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and 3 to the 2nd power means 3 times 3. you should end up with 16 plus 9. Well, 16 plus 9 is 25. Do you remember what the numerator was? I ended up getting 44 over 25. I don't think there's any common factors between those two, so it can't be reduced. It looks like that's our final answer. So some hard problems there, but the more you practice, the easier it's going to be. So just make sure you practice, practice, practice on those different difficult kind of order of operations problems. Now, I didn't have any examples from your book, and so I've kind of made up a few extra examples that I think are important. If you look at these three with me and kind of write them down wherever you have room. I'm looking at this one, and this problem here. If you look at the first one, I have a negative and then parentheses and then a negative 17. Well, inside those parentheses, there's really nothing I can do with that negative 17. And so from there, I need to figure out what my final answer is if I have a negative outside of the parentheses and a negative inside the parentheses. Well, you can think about this a couple different ways. You can think about there being really an invisible 1 that's right next to these parentheses being multiplied by the negative 17. So really, I can think about this being negative 1 times a negative 17. Well, negative times a negative gives me a positive 17. Or from a previous section, we can think about this as an opposite. We can think of the opposite of negative 17, well, is positive 17. Or you can think of those two negatives making a positive. But you got to be careful with that rule, because look down below. I see two negatives, but my answer is not positive 9. These two negatives cannot make a positive. It can through a parentheses, but those negatives can't break through bars, kind of like jail, right? What these bars mean, remember, is absolute value. The absolute value of negative 9 is really positive 9. So then I have really a positive 9 with a negative in the front, or a negative 1. So this negative 1, and then the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. So I really have 9 times negative 1, which is really negative 9. So those two negatives don't make a positive. So you've got to be careful. Negatives can break through parentheses, but they can't break through bars. You have to do what's inside the bars first before adding that other negative. So be careful on that one. All right, so look at the last one here. I see bars or an ordering symbol, it's kind of like parentheses. So I want to do inside the bars first. So negative 7 plus 4 is really negative 3. 3 squared is 9, and I can do that separately because they're separated by a plus or minus sign. So I have this problem so far. Now be careful. These two negatives don't make a positive because remember, negatives can't break through bars. I have to do the absolute value first. So the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3, and then I still have the negative that's in between. So now I have 9 minus 3, which is really 6, a little bit different than 9 plus 3. So be careful with that one. All right, so I wanted to show you those examples just to show you that two negatives can break through parentheses and make a positive, but two negatives cannot break through bars. You have to make sure that you do the absolute value first before applying that second negative. It makes a huge difference.